Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome to the Animated Girl Profiles Confidential number 47. Yes, we are 3 confidentials away from the 50th. And here, I thought I'd do something special, a little bit different. I want to focus on not 1, not 2, not 3, but I think 4 characters, if not more so, by one Eric Schwartz. Eric Schwartz is very well known in the artistic sense as being the creator of some of the most iconic female characters from a webcomic, webtoon, and just artistic standpoint that many would associate his characters as being the start of the furry fandom, as being the launching point for the furry fandom becoming what it is today. You see, back in the early 90s, Eric created several characters. One of the first characters that I first noticed, along with anybody else, was Amy the Squirrel. Now, Amy the Squirrel was one of his first characters, and she became the official mascot or unofficial mascot of the Amiga in 1992. Now, she is, according to some of the websites, Amy is the oldest character created by Eric. And like I said, she she was noted for her she was noted for Eric creating her almost, hard to believe, but almost as a parody or almost side-by-side copy of Minerva Mink. The style and stuff was there. You could see the similarities. And this was definitely seen a lot more so when Eric debuted her in an animation short. One of, I think, 3 animation shorts? Or 4 animation shorts, actually. It was called A Walk in the Park, and basically all the male characters' reactions to seeing Amy walking, and she's oblivious to the reactions because she's just walking, she's listening to a Walkman, she's heading to work. It's, basically the same reaction Minerva got in Animaniacs, and the style there, ironically, the characteristic design of Amy, you could tell is inspired by Minerva Mink. So, anyway, Amy made her animated debut in 1993 in A Walk in a Park. Around this time frame as well, she starred in a trilogy of animated shorts called At the Movies. And these kind of had a bit of a continuity deal to them. And what I mean by continuity deal is she starts off by having one boyfriend, and then as time goes on, she breaks up and dumps that one and gets introduced to She gets introduced to another character called Thomas Wolfe, who she, in the Sabrina storylines, and that's another character I'll talk about in a minute, she gets married to and has a son. Now, according to, like I said, several websites, Amy has really changed over the years. You know, when she first came around in the late 80s to early to mid 90s, Amy was always drawn topless, you know, just with a short, just wearing shorts and all that. But according to some of the sites, she was drawn topless, but not in a naughty way. Wearing nothing but a very blue skirt or shorts, she was portrayed as playful, as mostly playful and mischiefy, as playful and mischief. Now, according to the sites and the research here that I've done, it was around the mid-90s that Eric Schwartz stopped drawing Amy topless. He doesn't draw her topless anymore, or that much. He doesn't do it that way. And she's basically portrayed as being a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more mature. And according to several sites and fans, this is mostly due to her getting married and having a child. Now, another character that Eric did that became a huge iconic, that debuted, I should say, around the same time, I think, as Amy, or actually debuted a few years later, was Coralista Cat. Now, Coralista Cat became the love interest for Eric's interpretation of the classic UB Irks character, Flip the Frog. Yeah, Flip the Frog originally debuted in the early 30s. It was a part of the UB Irks characters that were created alongside Mickey Mouse. And the classic Flip the Frog cartoons have been distributed on DVD as part of a Cartoons Lost collection that has spanned several volumes, or many volumes. And there is word going around that those Flip the Frog cartoons, those classic ones from the 30s, could be gathered together to be released on Blu-ray later this year. Anyway, Coralista Cat was created in the early 90s, and Flip the Frog was created as her love interest. And this was kind of very reminiscing in a sense, because we don't know exactly, well, we kind of get an idea of exactly when the timeline is, because this is the classic, okay, here you have a protagonist character in Flip the Frog, and here you have a protagonist love interest in Coralista Cat, and you see someone like Coralista Cat's character and the way she's drawn, and you see that she is portrayed as the girlfriend, the love interest to Flip the Frog. You think, why? And I think what Eric was going for was more of that she sees beyond, the character of Coralista sees beyond Flip's appearance. She sees someone that's kind-hearted, that's, he may be small in stature, but he has a big heart, he's kind, he will do anything that's needed. And I think Eric just felt like, hey, that would be the perfect dynamic to work with as far as the comic goes. And as far as this comic goes, as far as these characters go, and that's what he did, and that's why Flip was brought into the equation. Now, she is one of, according to several websites like Amy the Squirrel, she's one of his originals. So that kind of works out in the long run. And for Eric, if any copyright situations came around, but and just like with Amy, she's appeared in some comic strips. She's had many fans, even Eric himself drawing different fan art and depictions of her along with Flip. And just like with Amy, she has appeared in cartoons along with Flip the Frog. She has been in some cartoons, and And basically, she has appeared, I think, in 1, 2, 3, maybe cartoons, I believe. I'm not really sure. Let's see, there was the dating game, from what I understand. There was a day at the beach. There was quality time. Oh, and then there was the snowbound one. However, here's the situation about the fourth one, the snowbound one. Apparently, and you can ask Jawbreaker at Play for Cinema if you want to get more information about these characters. You can check out his furry girl profiles on these characters. Basically, Snowbound was the last Coralista Flip the Frog cartoon made back in the mid-90s, around 1995. And unfortunately, it was not completed. It was not completed. There was some kind of issues, animation-wise, space-wise, because you got to remember, when these cartoons were being created, the kind of animation that they were using differed from time to time. Yes, it improved from cartoon to cartoon to cartoon. It looked more fluid and more like it's something you would watch on Kids WB or Cartoon Network at that time. And what happened was, according to Jawbreaker, basically Eric Schwartz ran out of space. He ran out of some major space that he needed to help finish the cartoon. So what he did at the end of Snowbound is he put it to be continued, basically intending to finish it, which he never got around to do so. So overall, though, just by the appearances in the cartoon, in the comic strips and all that, the way Coralista is portrayed by Eric, the way Eric Schwartz portrays Coralista is, this is a very down-to-earth, very sweetheart, character. She's kind-hearted, she's willing to help out. Even at the beginning of Snowbound, she's walking ahead of Flip, and she has to call back to him, and when she doesn't see him, she has to go walk back towards him, pick him up, place him back down because he's frozen from walking. He's basically become a froxicle, if you will, and she has to kiss him on the cheeks to thaw him out. So, yeah, she's very kind-hearted. She doesn't have to do that. Even when they're going on those, what are they? Those sky seats, those Skywalker seats, whatever they're called. Those toboggans, whatever you want to call them, those sky seats, those sky-high seats. When she sits down on one, when she lifts herself up, if you will, and sits down on one of the seat behind her knocks Flip down. She looks down, seeing that he'd missed the ride, stretches her tail down to hook him and grab him, and pull him up with her. So she doesn't have to do that. She's like, well, he can make it himself. But no, that's the kind of character she is. She's kind-hearted, she's sweet, she's lovable, but she also has a badass side to her. And that badass side is, you don't piss her off. You don't force yourself upon her. You don't get on her bad side, or else she will literally kick your butt. And if you watch A Day at the Beach, which is another Flip the Frog, Coralista Cat cartoon, you'll see exactly what I mean. If you watch towards the end of the dating game cartoon, you'll see exactly what I mean. But yeah, she is pretty much, she's pretty much like, she's kind, she's sweet, she's lovable, she's willing to help anybody out that needs it. But if you get on her bad side, you watch out. Now Eric, besides Coralista, made other characters as well. He made another character called Tammy Vixen. Now, this is a character we have not seen in quite some time in his comics or in any shape or form, although she may be coming back soon. We don't know. That's up to Eric. But basically, Tammy Vixen debuted debuted as part of the Sabrina-Online comic strip and was sort of a major part for quite some time. However, she was also based on something. Well, not she, but Tammy Vixen had a boyfriend, and who was based on Eric's pet dog Tor. And when Eric's dog passed away in 1998, Eric stopped drawing Tammy Vixen in response. He says one of the pictures. Now, according to some of the websites, it says one of the pictures Eric did to commemorate his pet has Tammy at Tor's grave, or at his dog's grave. So now I can't really say if she's still being drawn to this day, if he's decided to redraw her. You know, if he has, that's great, but I don't know if he has or not. It doesn't look like he could have. Now, one of the characters that... Now, another character as well, speaking of Tammy Vixen, another character that Eric did as well before her was Sheila Vixen, and she basically was portrayed as the older sister of Tammy. And she was basically one of Eric's many characters that he created. I think in the mid to late 90s, maybe early 2000s. According to some of the websites, Sheila is straightforward, friendly, and playful, not overly bright, but by no means a bimbo. She has a fox boyfriend named Rod, with whom she shares an open relationship with. It says in the Sabrina-Online comic, Sheila appears as one of the actresses' employees at Double Z Studios. She is also the lead female character in Haikuru Karami's story Identity Crisis. So yeah, the one theme you'll discover about some of Eric's characters is these are the kind of characters that at a distance may look like, hey, they're the kind of characters your kids can watch and read about. Not particularly, because these are the kind of characters that if Eric, I'm pretty sure he's tried and probably still wants to try, would ever get greenlit for an animated series on Adult Swim or even Fox Animation Domination Block. These would be the kind of characters that would be seen in a cartoon series in prime time or late at night. That's the kind of characters they are. Now, Sheila, the way she's portrayed is basically she's very open. She's very open with her relationship when it comes to her boyfriend, and basically from what I've read, maybe I'm wrong, they're very open as well about, sharing, if you catch my drift. So, and it doesn't matter who they share with. So, if you catch my drift again. But yeah, Sheila was one of the characters that definitely personifies that these would be the kind of characters that if Eric ever got the greenlit to have them put into an animated series, the animated series would be mainly be part of the Fox Animation Domination Sunday night block or the Adult Swim late night block. So yeah. Now another character, of course, is Zig-Zag. Zig-Zag is a character because I mentioned Double Z Studios. She runs Double Z Studios, and Zig-Zag is kind of open herself. She's basically, according to Eric, she's a bisexual character, which means she can be in a relationship with either a male character or a female character, and she's not afraid to kind of hint at it, kind of acknowledge it, but she's also very respectful when one doesn't want to, be that way, or one doesn't want to accept, what she's doing. Even if you work at a studio as an employee or an assistant of any kind, she's willing to accept, hey, you don't want to go there, you don't want to go in that direction with me, that's fine. I get it. I respect your space. I respect your privacy. More power to you. She's willing, and she just lets it go. And she's willing to help out her employees because, as we find out in the comics and all that, she looks at everybody at her studios as family. And it all just turns from kind of a convoluted, if not tragic, backstory she had as a child. A traumatic backstory she had as a child. So, yeah, Zig-Zag is, like I said, she's kind of like Sheila. She's very open about her sexual orientation, being bisexual and all that. But she is willing to accept, hey, you don't want my advances. That's cool. No problem. I'll let you do what you got to do. But if you need help or anything, I'm always there for you. So I like that, and especially is shown about 4.5 years ago when Eric Schwartz did a Sabrina story where Sabrina got attacked by a mugger that she protected her boyfriend from several years ago in a comic strip, and all her friends the next night, because everybody thought when she got laid out by this mugger that Sabrina was dead, and I'll get into that when I talk about her in a moment. But we find out, spoilers, that Sabrina's okay, but all her friends come to her aid, mostly come to her aid and confront the mugger that nearly killed her, that landed Sabrina in the hospital, and the one that's at the forefront to prove that she's willing to do anything to help her family, as she looks at it, to protect her family, is Zig-Zag, and she basically beats the hell out of this guy. Amy gets a few shots in too, but it's mostly Zig-Zag. And what's funny and ironic about this is Zig-Zag has to end up taking anger management, because basically that anger and frustration, and all that she took out on that mugger, that was years of pin-up anger and frustration stemming back to when she was a child. So, yeah, Zig-Zag may be the kind of character that, like I said, can be open about her sexual orientation. Basically to her it wouldn't matter what kind of gender she would end up with, but she is respectable about a person's decision, and she's willing to help out at a moment's notice, and she treats everybody that works for her as family. And then, of course, we get to Sabrina. That's right, Sabrina herself. And this is a character that in 1996, Eric Schwartz created around the mid-90s, put her into this online webcomic in 1996, and it had been going strong up until recently in 2012, 2016. Well, it's been going, well, actually, it's still currently going, but not as much as it used to. Basically, Sabrina was created in 1996 with a series of webcomic strips that came out, I think, daily, if not weekly. And ironically, these comic strips that focused on Sabrina and her friends and their life and all the daily things they went through became a huge hit. They became a huge hit. Now, true, like I mentioned earlier, these are the kind of comics that your kids should not read. These are the kind of comic strips that maybe your young kids wouldn't understand or anything, especially with some of the moments that take place, if you catch my drift. But Sabrina-Online, just became a huge hit and made the Sabrina skunk character a huge star as far as the internet was concerned. And just like Amy and just like Coralista, she did star in some cartoons as well. Unfortunately, she only starred in 2 cartoons. Now, she did make according to a website, she did make a cameo appearance in one of the movie shorts starring Amy. I think she was in the audience or something like that. Yeah, she was in the background, kind of like in the audience. It was in the Amy cartoon At the Movies 3. So check that out. Maybe you could see her. But she did star in her own cartoons. In fact, the first one she did was Plot of the Artist. And you want to talk about how old these cartoons and these characters, how far back they go. Yeah, it's basically an animated short, sort of plugging the Amiga and its paint system and all that. The Amiga computer and its paint system or software that comes with it, paint program. And it's really good. It's a good introductory deal because you kind of see who Sabrina is and all that. And you kind of see that even though something may not go her way, like okay, it's like okay, she gets what she needs done on the computer, and then all of a sudden, just as she's about to save it, that's when the power goes out and basically everything is lost. And she screams about it, of course, which is the first time I think you hear her even vocally. And she just shrugs it off after that and says, "Oh well, back to work." Now, what's ironic about Plot of the Artist is when she does the scream part out of frustration of the power going out and her losing what she had just done, the project she had just done. What's funny is you see Amy's reaction because Amy is her roommate in the Sabrina comics and in the cartoons. But you also see Coralista and Flip the Frog. So it kind of tells you that all the characters are in the same universe, in the same continuity. But anyway, she just shrugs it off after that and gets back to work redoing it. The next one is called Remote Possibilities. And what that deals with is Sabrina is still up. She's sitting in the chair, just clicking away at the remote. Trying not to fall asleep, but eventually does. And she ends up in a dream sequence where when she clicks the remote, suddenly she turns into various other celebrities, characters, objects, you name it. And the first character she turns into is Jessica Rabbit. And I'll tell you this: when Jawbreaker did his Furry Girls profile on Sabrina, his reaction is priceless. He's like, oh my damn, it's a dream come true. When she became Jessica Rabbit. So, and it's a funny one. It's very funny because, you see all these different characters she turns into. You even get a human Sabrina skunk character or a human version of her at the end. And then she wakes up and realizes it's all a dream. So even though she had only those two cartoons, Sabrina has gone on to be one of the more popular characters, I guess you can say, in the furry fandom. In fact, people like Bob Show are a fan of hers. He even did like a couple of videos back several years ago when Eric Schwartz did that comic strip where, like I mentioned earlier, where she got jumped and landed in the hospital, and Bob Show did a bit of a video on that. Media Hunter recently, over the past several months, for his 2.5K subscriber special, talked about the Sabrina comics, went through the history of them. And what's funny is a lot of fans, they still like Rabbit. It's which is spelled Rabbette on DeviantArt. Even did a picture with a sort of a rabbit character or a raccoon character of Eric Schwartz, a characterization of Eric Schwartz, explaining that despite the fact that you have characters like Amy and Zig-Zag and Sheila and all them that can be a little bit more adult at times when it comes to certain scenarios, moments, and story arcs in the comic strips, that Sabrina is the only constant. She's the only constant. Now, I'm not saying that she doesn't get some mature moments herself, because she does end up getting a boyfriend. She does end up getting a boyfriend later on, who ends up turning into a husband. And she's got a big biography in some of the websites too. The husband is Arcee Raccoon, and what's interesting about this is in the comics, they do kind of touch upon how her parents are like, really? It's mostly her mom, but it's like her mom doesn't realize, wait a minute, I was in the same position as she was as a kid. I broke some rules, I broke tradition. But basically, her family, her parents are mostly her mom are kind of like old fashioned. Like, you should be marrying someone of your same species, not of someone that's different. And you know, basically, hold on for a sec. Yeah, but basically, you know, she's been around for quite some time, mostly since the mid-90s, and her relationship with Arcee Raccoon led to them being married. That was like towards the end of the comics run, or at least the initial run of the comic several years ago, because the comic's still going on to this day, just not as much. And yeah, she ended up being married to him. What's funny is when we first meet her, you know, you think at first we see another character with her who we think is her daughter, but it's actually her younger sister named Tabitha. And we find out a lot about her. Like, we find out she has a love for Transformers, still does. We find out that we also find out that her, you know, even though she was a fan of Transformers, her parents never bought her any because they were concerned of her being interested in something at the time that was meant for boys and not girls. I can tell you this: you want to talk about social commentary, Eric Schwartz? If you're listening, if Eric Schwartz created the Sabrina comic today, or the Sabrina character today, and as I did some research, and had the comic done along with Chris Fox, you know, did the comic. You talk about social commentary. If the Sabrina-Online comic came out today, this year, or in the past several years, you want to talk about social commentary about what's meant for boys, what's meant for girls. Sabrina would definitely be touching upon that. Now, I mentioned Double Z Studios, which is Zig-Zag's business, and she works there. Sabrina works there as a computer graphics designer, and she's kind of surprised a little bit when she finds out that the place she's going to be working for is an adult entertainment studio, but finds out like I mentioned earlier, that Zig-Zag may find her attractive, but respects and understands that, hey, you know, you're not that way. You're not, you know, you're not bisexual. You're not one way or the other. So that's pretty cool. Hold on. Oh, Chris Fox, you know, he is working on a Sabrina-Online the story. So that's still in the works, I guess, or if it's not in the works, we'll have to find out. But yeah, Eric Schwartz did the Sabrina-Online deal, and like I mentioned, I guess he had help maybe from Chris Fox, I don't know, but it was mostly Eric Schwartz that did it. And like I said, like I said, she is she works at the Double Z Studios, and like I said, like I mentioned about Zig-Zag earlier, she respects Sabrina's choice. Like, hey, I know you don't swing that way. That's fine. I'm cool with that. And she's willing to help Sabrina out. Like I mentioned earlier, she's basically the one initially that beats the heck out of the mugger in that one comic strip that followed up on what happened to Sabrina that landed her in the hospital. So overall, the Sabrina-Online comic, mostly does focus on Sabrina, mostly focuses on her relationship with Arcee Raccoon. At times will focus on her relationship with the other characters, like her roommate Amy the Squirrel, like her boss, her friendship with her boss, and Zig-Zag and Sheila when Sheila's around. So yeah, they'll focus a lot on her relationship with those characters, and it will also focus on the other characters as well. Sometimes Sabrina-Online won't necessarily have Sabrina in there. It'll focus on Amy and her husband Thomas. It'll focus on Zig-Zag and maybe Sheila, stuff like that. So overall, Sabrina-Online has definitely become a huge success in a huge way. As a matter of fact, later this year, Eric Schwartz, from what I understand, plans to release a hardcover, I think graphic novel or hardcover collection of all the Sabrina strips in a book to be released. And if I'm a fan of the Sabrina-Online series, I definitely pick that up. I probably will pick it up myself, but that's definitely a collector's item you might want to pick up when it gets released. Overall, when I look at characters like Sabrina, Amy, Zig-Zag, Sheila, Coralista, the list goes on, done by Eric Schwartz, all I can say is, deep down, I really hope Eric Schwartz can find a way to make these. What I'm saying is that, as somebody that supports the furry fandom, as basically a fan, not a major fan, but a fan in some ways, I really hope that Eric Schwartz brings these characters back in a big time way. Maybe he'll work with an animation studio to get a primetime animated series on Cartoon Network or on Fox's Animation Domination block, or even on Comedy Central, because I can guarantee you, if he makes that a reality, people will tune in. They will tune in and they will watch. That's a guarantee. Heck, he can even make a deal. Sorry, my finger hit the mic there. He can even make a deal with Amazon, Hulu, or Netflix. And I guarantee you people will tune in and watch there as well. But we'll just have to wait and see what he does. But as far as I'm concerned, you want to talk about the characters that help make a major impact as far as the furry fandom goes, and people being fans of furries and cosplaying as furry characters and all that, making up their own original characters and such, then I don't think you have to look any further, in my opinion, than Eric Schwartz's female cast of Amy Squirrel, Sabrina Skunk, Coralista Cat, and Zig-Zag Tiger Skunk, and Sheila Vixen. Sorry about that. But like I said, I really don't think you can like I said, I don't think you can find any other characters out there that, in my opinion, help put the furry fandom on the map more so than Eric Schwartz characters, more than Eric Schwartz girls. So if you don't know about them yet, check them out I'll provide a link down below. Check out the Furry Girl profiles by Jawbreaker, Play for Cinema, where he talks about them, and you'll get all the information you need. So that's all I'm going to say, folks. Thank you for listening to this 47th edition of the Anime Girls Profile Confidential. We are basically 3 confidentials away from 50. Thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to y'all later.